The Texas sun was beating down hard on a particularly busy Thursday afternoon in Austin. The kind of day where even the thought of stepping outside made you reach for a cold drink. But inside Tesla's Gigafactory, Elon Musk had been stuck in back-to-back meetings since 7 in the morning, running on nothing but black coffee and determination. By 2 p.m., his stomach was growling so loud it was practically echoing through the conference room. The morning had been intense, reviewing production targets, discussing battery innovations, and dealing with what felt like a million urgent emails. Even billionaire tech moguls need a break sometimes, and right now, all Musk wanted was something quick and familiar. "You know what?" he said to his assistant, checking his watch. "I'm going to grab something to eat. Cancel my next meeting. I need 30 minutes to myself." His security team wasn't thrilled when he pointed his Tesla Model S toward the nearest McDonald's instead of one of Austin's upscale restaurants. But there was something appealing about the simplicity of it. No reservations, no fuss, just straightforward food. The McDonald's was tucked between a gas station and a small strip mall, its golden arches gleaming in the afternoon sun. As Musk pulled into the parking lot, a few heads turned to look at the sleek electric car, but most people were too busy with their own lives to notice. The cool blast of air conditioning hit him as he walked in, along with the familiar smell of fries and coffee. The place was surprisingly quiet for that time of day, just a few families scattered around the tables, the soft murmur of conversations mixing with the gentle hum of the ice cream machine. What caught his attention wasn't the menu board or the prices, it was the young guy behind the counter. Couldn't have been more than 16 or 17, with bright eyes and an energy that seemed out of place in a fast food joint on a hot afternoon. While other workers moved around like they were on autopilot, this kid was different. He was actually engaging with customers, remembering their names, asking about their days, making what could have been just another boring transaction into something personal. Musk waited in line, watching as the teenager handled a complicated order from a family of 5 with impressive efficiency. He couldn't help but smile when the kid managed to calm down a fussy toddler by making a silly face while preparing their happy meal. When it was finally Musk's turn to order, he stepped up to the counter, already thinking about how good that Big Mac was going to taste. But what happened next would turn this simple lunch run into something neither he nor anyone else in that McDonald's would ever forget. The young worker looked up, and for a split second, his eyes widened with recognition. But instead of the usual starstruck reaction Musk had grown used to, what came next was completely unexpected. The teenager's face lit up not with awe at meeting a celebrity, but with genuine excitement about something entirely different. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice steady despite his obvious enthusiasm. "I was just reading about the new Tesla solar panel efficiency ratings this morning. I actually have some thoughts about that." And just like that, a routine McDonald's visit was about to become anything but ordinary. Musk blinked, slightly taken aback. Here he was in a McDonald's in Austin, and instead of asking for a selfie or an autograph, this teenager wanted to talk about solar panel efficiency. The kid's eyes sparkled with genuine interest, not the usual starstruck glimmer he was used to seeing. "Your order first, sir," the young worker said professionally, clearly mindful of his job responsibilities. "Then maybe we could talk about the new bifacial panels Tesla's developing. I've got some interesting ideas about maximizing their output." As Musk ordered his Big Mac meal, he couldn't help but notice how the teenager handled multiple tasks at once, punching in the order, making change for another register, and directing his coworkers, all while maintaining an intelligent conversation about renewable energy. "So," the young worker continued while preparing Musk's drink, "I read that the new panels are hitting 22.6% efficiency, but I think there might be a way to push that higher." He carefully filled the cup with ice, then Diet Coke. "Been working on some calculations during my breaks." Musk's curiosity was officially piqued. He found himself stepping to the side of the counter, his hunger temporarily forgotten. "What kind of calculations?" he asked, genuinely interested in what this kid had to say. The teenager glanced at his supervisor, who was watching the exchange with a mixture of confusion and amazement. "Hey, mind if I take my break now? It's pretty quiet," he called out. The supervisor, still processing the fact that Elon Musk was standing in their McDonald's, just nodded. Taking off his cap and grabbing his beaten-up backpack from under the counter, the young worker pulled out a notebook. Not a laptop, not a tablet, just an ordinary spiral notebook, its pages crammed with diagrams, equations, and neat handwriting. "See, I've been thinking about the angle problem," he said, flipping to a particular page. "Everyone focuses on the panel itself, but I've been looking at the microenvironment around it." His fingers traced over carefully drawn diagrams. "What if we could create a sort of microclimate that optimizes the panel's performance?" Musk leaned in closer, his food sitting forgotten on the counter. The diagrams were surprisingly sophisticated, not just random doodles, but well-thought-out technical drawings. The math in the margins, while not perfect, showed a deep understanding of the principles involved. "I got interested in this stuff after our power went out last winter," the teenager explained, his voice getting more animated. "We couldn't afford a generator, so I started researching alternative energy sources. Spent hours at the library reading everything I could find about solar power." Other customers were starting to notice the unusual scene, a fast food worker enthusiastically explaining complex energy concepts to one of the world's richest men. Some pulled out their phones to record, but neither Musk nor the young worker seemed to notice. "The real breakthrough came when I started thinking about biomimicry," the teenager continued, flipping to another page filled with sketches of leaves and mathematical formulas. "You know how some plants adjust their leaves throughout the day to maximize sun exposure? Well, what if we applied that principle to—" He stopped mid-sentence, suddenly self-conscious. "Sorry, I'm probably talking too much. You came here to eat, not to listen to some kid's crazy ideas." But Musk wasn't reaching for his food. Instead, he was already pulling out his own phone, opening his notes app. No, keep going," he said, his lunch completely forgotten. "Tell me more about this biomimicry approach. And what's this equation here in the corner?" The McDonald's dining room had grown quiet, the other customers and staff watching in amazement as what looked like the most unlikely tech conference in history unfolded before them. Nobody could have guessed that on this ordinary Thursday afternoon, between the drink machine and the French fry station, something extraordinary was about to happen. The real surprise came when the young worker reached deeper into his backpack and pulled out an old laptop that had definitely seen better days. The computer was held together with duct tape at the corners, and some of the keys were worn so badly you could barely read the letters. "I've actually built something," he said, a mix of pride and nervousness in his voice as he booted up the laptop. "It's pretty basic, but—" He paused, typing in his password with practiced speed. "I made this program for the science fair last month. Nobody really got it, but maybe you'll understand what I was trying to do." Musk pulled up a chair, completely invested now. His security team exchanged glances. Their boss's quick McDonald's run had turned into something entirely unexpected. The restaurant's manager had come out from the back office, trying to process the scene unfolding in his dining room. The teenager's fingers flew across the keyboard as he pulled up his program. Despite the laptop's age, it ran smoothly. Clearly, he'd optimized it well. "So this uses freely available satellite data," he explained, pointing to the screen. "You input an address, and it analyzes the location's solar potential." But this wasn't just another solar calculator. As the young worker demonstrated the program, Musk's expression changed from polite interest to genuine amazement. The software wasn't just looking at obvious factors like roof angle and sun exposure, it was considering things that even some professional systems overlooked. "See, it factors in things like nearby tree growth patterns," the teenager explained, zooming in on a sample property. "It can predict how shade patterns will change over the next 5 years based on average tree growth rates. And here," he clicked another tab. "It looks at historical weather data to account for microclimate patterns. Even considers things like how heat reflects off nearby buildings." A small crowd had gathered around their table, phones recording this unexpected meeting. But both Musk and the young worker remained absorbed in their discussion, the rest of the world fading into background noise. "The really cool part," the teenager continued, his initial nervousness completely gone now, "is that it can suggest optimal panel configurations based on all these factors. Like here," he pointed to a 3D model rotating on the screen. "For this house, it actually recommends a split array setup because of the afternoon shadow patterns." Musk leaned in closer, studying the interface. "You built this yourself?" he asked, though the answer was obvious from the way the young worker navigated through the program's features. "What languages did you use?" "Fun mostly," the teenager replied, scrolling through some code. "I learned it from free online courses. Took me about 6 months to get the basic version working. Been improving it whenever I can, between school and work shifts." What impressed Musk wasn't just the technical achievement, it was the practical thinking behind it. This wasn't just a clever piece of code, it was a real solution to a real problem, created by someone who understood both the technology and its practical applications. "The thing is," the young worker continued, his voice getting quieter, "I see all these houses in my neighborhood that could benefit from solar power, but installation companies keep quoting them super high prices because they can't optimize the setup properly. I thought if I could make something that helps plan better installations." He trailed off, suddenly aware again of all the attention they were getting. The restaurant had grown even more crowded, with people coming in just to see what was happening. Some were live-streaming the scene on their phones, while others whispered excitedly to each other. Musk sat back in his chair, a decision forming in his mind. The Big Mac on the table had gone cold, completely forgotten. He pulled out his phone again, but this time he wasn't taking notes. He was sending a message that would change this young worker's life forever. The McDonald's dining room had transformed into an impromptu tech demo space. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the unlikely scene of one of the world's most influential tech leaders hunched over a beat-up laptop with a teenage fast food worker. "Let me show you something else," the young worker said, pulling up another screen on his program. "I've been testing it on different neighborhoods." His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, bringing up a map of a nearby residential area. A lady who had been quietly eating her salad in the corner spoke up. "That's my neighborhood," she said, moving closer to look at the screen. "We've been trying to get solar quotes, but everyone says our roof isn't ideal for it." The teenager's eyes lit up. "Could I try your address?" he asked politely. When she nodded and shared it, he typed it in quickly. The program sprang to life, analyzing satellite imagery and crunching numbers. "See, this is exactly the kind of situation I built this for," he explained as the program worked. "Most companies just look at your roof and give up if it's not perfect. But there's usually a way to make it work if you're clever about it." The 3D model of the woman's house appeared on screen, rotating slowly as different solar panel configurations appeared and disappeared. Musk watched intently, occasionally nodding as the program worked through its calculations. "Look here," the teenager pointed out. "The companies probably told you your roof wasn't good because of these shade patterns, right?" The woman nodded. "But see what the program suggests." The display showed an innovative split-panel arrangement, with some panels in an unexpected location. "If we put the main array here, and then add these smaller panels on the garage roof at this angle, you'd actually get really good coverage. The shade from your oak tree only affects this section in late afternoon, when power demand is usually lower anyway." The woman leaned in closer, genuinely interested. "And this would actually work." "According to these calculations," Musk chimed in, studying the numbers, "it's not just theoretically possible, it's actually quite efficient." He turned to the young worker. "How did you account for the seasonal sun angle variations?" The teenager grinned and clicked through to another screen. "That's one of my favorite features," he said, starting an animation that showed how the sun's path would affect the panels throughout the year. The program factors in the exact coordinates and runs simulations for every month. It even suggests panel angles that optimize for winter production when people need more power for heating. More customers had gathered around, and soon the teenager was running simulations for different houses in the area. Each property presented unique challenges, and each time, his program found creative solutions that professional installers had overlooked. The restaurant manager had long since given up on trying to maintain normal operations. The lunch rush was over anyway, and this was far too interesting to interrupt. Even the kitchen staff were taking turns coming out to watch, their regular duties temporarily forgotten in the excitement of the moment. "The best part," the young worker explained, pulling up a cost analysis screen, "is that these optimized layouts usually end up being cheaper to install. When you work with the property's natural features instead of fighting against them, you save money on mounting hardware and installation time." Musk had been quietly typing on his phone between demonstrations. He looked up at the teenager with an expression that mixed admiration with decision. "Let me ask you something," he said, putting his phone down. If you had access to better resources, proper development tools, advanced testing capabilities, a real development team, what would you do with this? The young worker paused, clearly not expecting this question. He looked around at the crowded restaurant, at all the faces watching him, then back at his one laptop. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. "I'd make it better," he said simply. "Add machine learning to improve the predictions. Create a version that city planners could use for large-scale solar projects. Maybe even," he hesitated, then continued with growing confidence, "maybe even integrate it with Tesla's own solar planning systems to help make clean energy more accessible to everyone." The crowd in the restaurant had grown completely silent, sensing that they were witnessing something important. Musk nodded slowly, a smile spreading across his face. He picked up his phone again, and this time, the message he sent would set in motion a chain of events that nobody in that McDonald's would ever forget. The afternoon sun had shifted, casting long shadows through the McDonald's windows. The crowd inside had grown even larger, but nobody was leaving. They all sensed something extraordinary was about to happen. Elon Musk had been quiet for a few minutes, studying the young workers program with intense focus. "Let me present you with a real problem we're facing," Musk said suddenly, pulling out his phone and bringing up some photos. "This is a new Tesla solar project we're working on. We've hit a bit of a wall with it." The teenager leaned forward, his McDonald's name tag catching the sunlight. The photos showed a unique building complex with unusual architecture, curved walls, multiple levels, and lots of glass. "Our engineers have been struggling with this one," Musk explained. "The client wants maximum solar coverage, but the building's design makes traditional panel layouts inefficient. Plus, there's the issue of reflection from all that glass." The young worker studied the photos carefully, his brow furrowed in concentration. Someone in the crowd whispered, "No pressure, kid," causing a ripple of nervous laughter. "Could I?" The teenager hesitated, then gathered his courage. "Could I try running it through my program? I might need to adjust some parameters first." Musk nodded, watching intently as the young worker's fingers flew across the keyboard. The old laptop whirred loudly, working harder than it probably had in years. "First, let me modify the shadow calculation algorithm," the teenager muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "The curved walls will create unusual patterns." The restaurant had fallen completely silent except for the sound of typing. Even the kitchen staff had stopped their work to watch. The restaurant manager had given up any pretense of running a normal shift. This was too important to interrupt. 20 minutes passed as the young worker tweaked his program, occasionally asking Musk questions about the building's exact dimensions and orientation. The crowd watched in amazement as complex 3D models appeared on the screen, rotating to show different angles and possibilities. "Okay," the teenager said finally, sitting back slightly. "I think I might have something, but it's kind of different." He turned the laptop so Musk could see better. "See, instead of fighting against the building's curved design, what if we worked with it?" The screen showed an unusual arrangement of panels that seemed to flow with the building's shape. "The curves actually give us an advantage," the young worker explained, growing more confident as he walked through his solution. "By placing the panels in this spiral pattern, we can capture sunlight throughout the day as the sun moves. The glass reflections that were causing problems. I've calculated how to use them to boost efficiency." Musk leaned in closer, his expression changing from curiosity to genuine surprise. "Show me the efficiency calculations," he said. The teenager pulled up another screen full of numbers and graphs. "According to these simulations, this layout would increase total energy capture by 28% compared to traditional arrangements. And because we're working with the building's natural shape, installation costs would actually be lower." Someone in the crowd let out a low whistle. Musk was rapidly typing notes on his phone, occasionally nodding as the young worker continued explaining his solution. "But here's the really interesting part," the teenager said, clicking through to another screen. "The program suggests adding these smaller auxiliary panels here and here." He pointed to specific spots on the model. "They'd catch the reflected light from the glass surfaces at optimal angles. It's like getting free extra energy that would otherwise be wasted." Musk sat back in his chair, a smile slowly spreading across his face. He looked at the young worker, then at the beaten-up laptop that had just solved a problem his top engineers had been struggling with. "How long have you been working on this program?" he asked quietly. "About 8 months," the teenager replied, suddenly self-conscious again. "I work on it during breaks and sometimes late at night after my mom goes to sleep. The library lets me use their computers when mine crashes." Musk nodded slowly, then picked up his phone again. This time, he wasn't taking notes. He was sending a message that would change everything. The crowd in the restaurant seemed to hold its collective breath, sensing that they were about to witness something incredible. The McDonald's dining room had grown so quiet you could hear the ice machine humming in the background. Elon Musk looked at the young worker, then at the worn laptop showing the brilliant solar program, and made a decision that would change everything. "Let me tell you what I'm thinking," Musk said, leaning forward in his chair. "What you've created here, in your spare time, with limited resources, it's remarkable. But what impresses me most isn't just the technical achievement, it's your understanding of why it matters." The teenager shifted in his seat, barely breathing. The crowd around them had grown even larger, with people pressing against the windows from outside, trying to see what was happening. "I've just been texting with my team at Tesla," Musk continued, holding up his phone. "We'd like to offer you something, but first I want to ask, what are your plans after high school?" The young worker glanced down at his McDonald's uniform, then back at Musk. "I've been saving up for community college," he said quietly, "taking extra shifts whenever I can. My mom's got medical bills, so university isn't really in the cards right now." Musk nodded, as if this answer confirmed something for him. "Here's what I'm proposing," he said, his voice clear and direct. "First, a full scholarship to any university you choose. Engineering, computer science, whatever path you want to pursue, it's covered." A collective gasp went through the restaurant. The teenager's hands gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turning white. "But that's just the beginning," Musk continued. "We want to bring you into Tesla as an intern, starting this summer. You'll work directly with our solar division, and we'll provide all the resources you need to develop your program further." The young worker's eyes widened, but Musk wasn't finished. "More importantly, we want to start implementing your ideas right now. I'll have our legal team draw up a contract to purchase your software, with you retaining partial ownership rights. We'll assign a development team to work under your direction to expand it into a full-scale solution." The restaurant manager, who had been standing nearby, suddenly had to sit down. One of the kitchen staff brought him a cup of water. "But sir," the teenager started, his voice shaky, "I don't even have a degree yet. You're just someone who saw a problem and found an innovative way to solve it," Musk interrupted gently. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Everything else can be learned." He pulled out a business card, not the fancy kind, but a simple one with just a phone number. "This is my private line to my assistant. Call tomorrow morning and we'll get everything set up. In the meantime," he paused, reaching for his phone again. "What's your mom's number? I think she should hear about this directly from me." The teenager's hands were shaking so badly he had to try 3 times to unlock his phone. When he finally pulled up his mom's contact, he could barely see it through his tears. "One more thing," Musk added, while waiting for the call to connect. "That laptop of yours? Keep it. Even after we get you the latest equipment, keep it. It'll remind you that great ideas can start anywhere, even on a beat-up computer during breaks at McDonald's." The other customers had started applauding, some wiping away tears of their own. The restaurant manager was already on his phone, telling someone they'd never believe what just happened during his shift. Just then, a woman's voice answered on Musk's phone. "Hello," she said, sounding confused by the unknown number. "Ma'am," Musk began, a smile spreading across his face, "I'm calling from a McDonald's in Austin. I've just been talking with your son, and I think you'd better sit down for what I'm about to tell you." 6 months after that incredible day at McDonald's, the story had taken on a life of its own. The video of the encounter, recorded by dozens of customers on their phones, had spread across the internet like wildfire. But the real story wasn't just about one lucky break, it was about what happened next. The young programmer had just finished his first summer internship at Tesla, where his solar optimization program had already revolutionized their installation process. The software, now professionally developed and expanded, had helped reduce installation costs by 35% across the board. More importantly, it was making solar power accessible to homes that other companies had written off as unsuitable. Remember that lady from McDonald's who couldn't get solar quotes for her house? She became the first test case for the new system. Her solar installation now powers not just her home, but feeds excess energy back into the grid, inspiring half her neighborhood to follow suit. The teenage inventor's mom no longer had to worry about medical bills. The payment for his software had taken care of that, though she still got emotional talking about the day Elon Musk called her from McDonald's. She'd been at work, had to sit down in the break room, convinced someone was playing a prank, until her son got on the phone, his voice shaking with excitement. But the biggest change wasn't just in one family's life. The story had sparked something larger. After seeing how a simple McDonald's worker with a beat-up laptop could create something so innovative, other young people started sharing their own inventions and ideas online. Musk had kept his word, and then some. Beyond the original offer, he established what he called the Golden Arches Innovation Fund, a program specifically designed to find and support young inventors from unexpected places. The name was a playful nod to where it all started. The next world-changing idea probably isn't sitting in a Silicon Valley office, Musk said in a follow-up interview. It's in the mind of someone working a regular job, solving problems in their spare time, just waiting for an opportunity. The original McDonald's location had become something of a tourist attraction. They'd put up a small plaque near the table where it all happened. Dreams can start anywhere. The young worker's original chair was still there, though he now only visited occasionally, usually grabbing a burger between college classes. His old manager loved telling the story to new employees. "Keep your eyes open," he'd say during training. "You never know who might walk through those doors, or what might happen on an ordinary day at work." The beaten-up laptop that started it all? It sat in a special display case at Tesla's headquarters, right next to the young inventor's McDonald's name tag. Under it was a simple message: some of the best solutions come from people who understand the problems firsthand. The program itself had grown beyond anyone's expectations. It was now being used by solar companies worldwide, making clean energy more accessible in places where traditional installation methods weren't practical. City planners were using it to design more energy-efficient communities. Schools were incorporating it into their science programs. But perhaps the most touching part of the story came from the young inventor himself. When asked about his success in a recent interview, he pulled out his old McDonald's cap, kept as a reminder of where he started. "The most important thing I learned," he said, straightening his new Tesla employee badge, "is that you don't need fancy equipment or a perfect setting to start working on your dreams. Sometimes all it takes is believing in your ideas enough to work on them during lunch breaks." The interviewer pointed out that he could probably afford any computer he wanted now, but he still kept that old laptop at home. "It reminds me that every big change starts small," he replied with a smile. "And sometimes the best opportunities come with a side of fries." As the story continued to inspire others, one thing became clear: that ordinary Thursday afternoon at McDonald's hadn't just changed one life, it had started a movement. It showed the world that innovation doesn't care about your job title, your background, or even where you're working. Great ideas can come from anywhere, and sometimes the most amazing opportunities appear in the most unexpected places. And somewhere, right now, another young person is probably working on their own world-changing idea, maybe during breaks at their own everyday job, hoping for their own chance to make a difference. The only question is, who will notice them first?